Okay, I think we are live. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I think we are. Can everybody hear me? How is the audio? How is the video? I think there's a bit of a lag, but okay, awesome. Okay, so okay, awesome. All right, great. Cool. Well, so apparently YouTube sends a notification when you go live. So there might be people joining. But yeah, basically, I mean, I don't really have a particular kind of agenda. I think I'm happy to talk about whatever people fancy talking about, any kind of questions or like topics. Yeah, this, to be honest, is a bit of an experiment for me. I've not been very active on YouTube for like quite a while. I posted my last video like November, December. So I was sort of brainstorming what sort of stuff I should start making videos on again. And yeah, I'm happy to hear. Well, I'm happy to see where the discussion goes, and maybe that'll give me some ideas of next videos. If you guys have any suggestions, requests, anything like that for future videos, then let me know. I'm planning to make a few more over the summer. I think one of the things that's kind of tricky and has made it a bit harder for me to make a lot of videos is just the amount of time it takes to edit videos. So I'm potentially going to be experimenting with kind of doing live streams where I just go through stuff that is kind of interesting as if it was a video, but then actually, yeah, like then just share it. So it'll be a little bit kind of less filtered, a little bit less polished, but hopefully still useful and hopefully still stuff that I can share. So, okay, yeah, Shivan, where have I been? So, I mean, I've been working, I've still been working on a lot of different things. Let me see, I can share some updates. So yeah, I was kind of making videos pretty actively until like October, November, December last year. And then I kind of made a conscious decision at the end of December, did like an end of year reflection. I was like, it's been quite a fun year making content on YouTube and you know, like growing a channel and kind of working on other stuff in the public domain and trying to kind of learn in public and just share the sorts of projects that I'm working on. And then over the last, yeah, basically at the start of the year, I was like, where do I want to put my priorities? And I kind of broadly just wanted to transition from like output to input. So it wasn't the case that I would have been unable to make YouTube videos, but it was like, I know that if I had been making it, it would have affected the other things that I was working on. I just wanted to prioritize them for a bit of time. I realize I'm being a bit vague at the moment, but yeah, in terms of more specifically, so I've been working on a master's degree. So I've kind of just been wrapping up a master's degree and doing various deep dives in subjects alongside that. So the master's degree is in data science and machine learning. And then I was quite keen not just to use it as like a master's degree where I'm just studying and trying to get the degree and move on to the next step. I wanted to dive into other subjects kind of around that. And I fairly so I kind of made a lot of efforts and deep dives into other subjects kind of related to the masters, not necessarily things that are going to like actively help me get through the masters, but just use that as an opportunity to like really go quite deep into the subject. And because of my medical background, I was particularly thinking about, you know, how can I make this transferable? Like how can I, everything I'm learning, how can I then apply that to a healthcare context and just try and build up a kind of understanding of that. So yeah, I appreciate that's still like a little bit high level, but broadly that's the kind of stuff I've been working on. And right now I'm interning with a company called Zoe, which is a company in London and is working in the personalized nutrition space. They also do a lot of COVID stuff. So they do like the COVID symptom tracker app for the UK, for the NHS. And I have been, I'm basically working on kind of modeling the glucose response. So I'm working on the personalized nutrition side of things. But that's like the kind of main project I'm doing at the moment. And then I'm doing various other kind of side projects. There's something called Explain This Paper, which is kind of an initiative that me and a couple of friends are working on. And then, you can check out it's explainthispaper.com. And the idea is to basically summarize medical papers and like quite complex academic papers, just as simple as possible, making it fun to read, using emojis, using kind of short and sweet sentences just to really extract the key points for the papers, and just make it ultimately a bit easier for people to kind of keep up with medical research and what's going on. And there's various pretty cool stuff around that we're trying to build. Like that's the core thing, is summarizing these medical papers so that people can understand, and making that process of consuming the content easier. But then there's various other stuff that we'll also be looking at. So I think I can go into that if people are interested, drop a message. But otherwise, things will be announced in kind of coming months. Someone says, why do you always film from Ali's house? Do you work from him? I don't think I always film from Ali's house. This is basically in reference to a series of videos I did with that I filmed at Ali Abdal's house. So yeah, basically I just went to his house one day and just spent the day filming like a series of videos. I think it's like maybe 8 or 9 videos that then I shared. I think it's only the one time that I've been to his house to do that. The way that came about was, so Ali's a friend of mine from university. We both studied medicine at Cambridge. And so we were just chatting about like kind of ideas for content, and then we were both doing a productivity series at the time. And he was basically making a series to share on Skillshare, which is now available. It's called something like How to Be Productive or something on Skillshare. And then we were chatting. So then I did another video as well. I did like a video series on that. So I just kind of went to his house and recorded it. It's basically how that came about. Lauren says, is this being recorded or watchable later? So I think it automatically does get recorded and then gets uploaded onto YouTube. I am probably going to put it I might put it unlisted. I'll put it unlisted for a bit. I probably will put it private at some point, because like it's probably not the most interesting video to watch. Relative to YouTube videos, which are usually like quite condensed and like well structured. So I'll leave it for a bit. You can watch it unlisted, and then probably like after a week or something, I'll put it private. So yeah, basically, if it's unlisted, what it means is if you just copy the URL, you can still access that later. Where are you doing master's degree? So I'm doing it at UCL, in London. It's one of the main universities in London, for those not familiar. Shivan. Yeah, no, I'm aware of your work as well, Shivan. I was on your website like the other day as well. You're doing some really interesting stuff in kind of AI for ophthalmology. So anybody interested in kind of AI healthcare, particularly ophthalmology, check out Shivan's website. I'm sure if you search his name, it comes up. Thank you for the congratulations, 7K subs. Yeah, to be honest, it's been a bit of a weird one, because I was making videos like pretty actively, basically once a week up until October, November time, and then I kind of stopped making it. As I said, I made this like this decision to then stop making videos actively, and then basically my channel like kind of grew since then. So it seems that the YouTube algorithm, there's like a couple of my videos it sort of picked up and then started recommending, which is kind of interesting. So I wasn't even like, when I was making videos, I was checking my YouTube channel like quite a lot, just seeing like how many views I'm getting and what sort of videos people watching. And then when I stopped caring about it, then it started growing, and I got more people coming. So coming back to sharing content, have you considered Twitch as a low barrier? Yeah, I mean, I think probably because I think you can stream on both at the same time. Like right now I'm just streaming on YouTube. in the future, I would probably stream on Twitch and YouTube and stuff. Yeah, because this is like a really unfocused, unguided Q&A of sorts. I just thought, let's just do it and like just start streaming on YouTube. And part of it is I just want to like get back into making content again. So just doing a live stream on YouTube is kind of a lot easier than thinking of a video and going through that whole process. But yeah, in terms of showing on Twitch, probably is likely to be something that I'll do down the line, and just do some like live stream. So if I do the live stream thing I mentioned, where I just go through particular topics and do it live, record it and then share it, I'll probably do that on YouTube and Twitch. Yeah, exactly, as lowering the barrier to entry. I'm a video editor. I would love to have your channel. It would be interesting getting an editor. Yeah, potentially. I mean, drop me a message. My email is hi@chrislovejoy.me. Yeah, like chrislovejoy.me. So yeah, send me a message or on like any other website, like social media and stuff. But yeah, we can chat about it. Okay, is Danbot doing stuff on Twitch? Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I haven't seen. I mean, I'm aware of Danbot's YouTube channel. Anybody who's interested in like data science, I would definitely recommend. It's super interesting channel. He does some like really cool stuff. I know he does some like live streams. He does some other videos. I've learned a lot from Dan. In terms of potential collab in future, yeah, I mean, yeah, the extent of collaboration we've done so far. I mean, I've messaged him, like we've chatted back and forth a little bit. I tweeted him a question once and he read it out in one of his Q&As. So I guess if you count that as a collab, it's not like it's not a proper collab, but yeah, we've chatted a little bit back and forth. We may well do something down the future. I would definitely be like keen for that. So yeah, I'll see what Dan says. We'll chat about that, because I know he's also interested in healthcare applications as well. Toom says, do you want to start a company in health AI? In short, yes. That's kind of the plan on the horizon. Is yeah, I particularly want to build a company using deep tech, so like AI, ML, and kind of like cutting edge stuff to build a company applying AI to healthcare. I have a few ideas. I'm kind of like iterating through them at the moment and trying to like weed out the ideas that have potential and those that don't. I think on the whole, the tricky thing with building a company like healthcare AI is you kind of really need to align like three things. So you need to have something that can be solved by technology that the AI can do. You need to have something that then leads to like a positive health impact, and then you also need a way to commercialize that. And I think there's like not that many companies that have been able to do those three. I think it's pretty hard to kind of thread the needle between those three. So I have various ideas that would like hit two of those, but ultimately it's a case of trying to hit all three. So yeah, that's the plan, and we'll see. I'll keep you posted as things go. Congrats, thank you. Will you make a full tutorial? I'm not sure at which point you sent that comment, so let me know what the tutorial is about. Yeah, what was I talking about? I can't remember. Do I have an Instagram account? Yes, I have Instagram. I believe it's chris.lj. I think it's Instagram, yeah, .com, obviously, /chris.lj, I think is my Instagram. I'm not super active on there, but I post videos like photos occasionally. Please give us some recommendation on moving career to AI. Yes, sure. So, I mean, what's your background? Like, where are you moving into AI from? I think in general, I would say the thing with AI is it's kind of most industries are going to be enhanced by AI in some way to varying extents. Like some are going to be like dramatically transformed. Some will be still have AI, but maybe to a lesser extent. So what Andrew Ng says is that the next kind of generation of companies and the next generation of jobs is going to be in this space of applying AI with domain knowledge. So a lot of it is about using the kind of career experience that you have and the career domain insight that you have and combining that with AI in some way. So it's less about moving into a career of like pure AI, unless that's something that you really want, and that's something that to some extent I'm doing. But it's more about how can you do something that how can you build the knowledge of AI that you can then combine with your domain knowledge to then do what it is that you want to do. As somebody who's studying data science, how could I gain more knowledge about medicine to work on ML AI systems in healthcare? Yeah, it's a great question, and I do get asked this sometimes, but I find it a little bit tricky to answer, given that I kind of very much did the opposite. Like I went the long-winded route of studying medicine and becoming a doctor, which obviously gave me the insight into healthcare, but I never had to kind of like self-teach that in a kind of side, like a domain, outside domain. So I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice on that. I would say to gain more knowledge about medicine, yeah, I'd have to think about it. I mean, generic stuff like reading textbooks, but then on that's probably a bad recommendation because they're really dry. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just reading stuff. No, sorry, I haven't got any good advice on that, to be honest. Can I share any personal projects I've been working on during my hiatus? Yeah, so one thing that's a little bit annoying, I thought I was gonna be able to share my screen, but it turns out that I have to stream on a separate platform if I want to do that. So the easiest thing would be for me to just like start showing you some stuff on my computer, but I think I probably will do that on a future live stream. So one kind of big, not necessarily like project per se, but I guess it is sort of a project, is just like setting up all my knowledge on Obsidian. So for those who are not familiar, Obsidian is basically this, is kind of like a piece of software where you can do knowledge management. So you can put all your files on there and you can make all these notes in Markdown, like so plain text files, and then you can link between them. And yeah, to be honest, it's like been an absolute game changer for me. And the easiest way for me to explain it is to show you it, which I can't do right now. But I've been doing a lot of kind of moving stuff over into Obsidian and making connections between stuff that I've learned, building like databases. So I made kind of like a social database of sorts, and like a company profile database. So all the companies that I'm like interested in or come across, I've basically got notes on those within this database, and then I can kind of link those to other relevant things related to that company. So maybe like how much I can have information on how much funding they've raised, what sort of thing they're doing, if there's any papers that they've published, if they're related to other companies. That's one example. And it's just like so cool how you can just link everything within this sort of knowledge system. But I will definitely make a video on that in future, and that might even be the next live stream that I do. It might just be like a walk through my Obsidian. Yeah, I don't know if is anybody familiar with Obsidian who's watching, and yeah, if so, any questions, because like I will probably, because I've done quite a lot of stuff in Obsidian, I'll almost certainly be making some videos about this. Yeah. So okay, let's see other projects I've been working on. So there's the Obsidian stuff. I've kind of done a few freelance projects. Yeah, written a couple of papers. Oh, someone says they prefer Devon Think. I've never heard of that. This is like an alternative to Obsidian. Okay, interesting. Okay, I might have a look at it. Yeah, this is one of the things though as well. There's so many different kind of knowledge management stuff. And so it seems kind of a hot field at the moment. And I suppose I think it's the way I see it, we're kind of going through a bit of a shift at the moment towards like really integrating everything that you've learned and everything that's digitized with yourself, so that you can really kind of like basically level up the productivity and level up the human computer symbiosis. So yeah, okay, I'll have a look at that. I'll have a look at that. It looks pretty interesting. Another one, there was another one that someone mentioned the other day that I saw that also looks really cool. To some extent though, I think you kind of get a little bit locked into some platforms as you put more effort into it, and as you get more things that are more specific to that platform and how it works. So yeah, I'll have a look. In which areas of healthcare do you see the biggest potential for ML? Yeah, great question. I mean, you can kind of go through every specialty and think about the ways it will be impacted. There's probably some kind of broader aspects as well. Like in a broad sense, I think that actually a lot of the operational efficiency stuff, there's a lot of potential for ML just to help with not even like applying it in a clinical context, of doing some sort of like diagnosis or prognosis or treatment plan, which are all things that it can do and are all like exciting things. But actually, how can we kind of streamline organization of theaters or appointments, or yeah, even like kind of tracking health? How do we monitor that? How can we track a lot of things related to COVID? I think there's really interesting kind of data science ML stuff that we can do there. And in terms of the specialities, I mean, I think all of them will be affected a lot. People classically say the pattern recognition specialties are going to be particularly affected, which is like ophthalmology, radiology, and dermatology particularly, because ML right now is like really good at visual stuff. And because those are often kind of visual based, like you can look at a melanoma and you can pick up this information about it. You can look at a chest X-ray. Those are definitely areas that are going to be affected. I think psychiatry. I think psychiatry is going to be a big one, because there's so much about psychiatry that is like really challenging to do. It's kind of underfunded quite a bit as well, and at least in the UK, I'm talking from like UK experience, but there's definitely a lot of things I can think of within psychiatry that people could do, and people are working on. Like, so for example, things to do with like monitoring mental health. Like the way it's kind of done at the moment predominantly is you'll have like mental health appointments over periods of time, and then they'll kind of get like a snapshot. But actually, probably the most relevant stuff about your mental health is not the kind of thing that can be picked up easily in a 5-10 minute consultation, or even a longer consultation. So I think there'll be a lot of stuff around like monitoring. So what sort of things you pick up from your smartphone that helps you monitor mental health? I think, yeah, there's interesting studies like looking at people's speech, looking at people's even the amount you move, the kind of tone of your voice, the amount of people you text. All of those things can then be markers of your mental health. So there's a lot of potential there. Shim says, I think you hit the nail on the head. Streamlining healthcare is key. Not the most something, but the easiest to implement. Yeah, this is the thing. I think it comes back to this thing I mentioned of this challenge of healthcare AI being, it needs to be commercially viable, it needs to have a clinical impact, and it needs to be feasible with the technology. And that's tricky to do, to have those three. But actually, if you take a step back, and you're not going for like the clinical context, you're going more for this operational thing, like the non-clinical side, then actually it doesn't need to have a kind of direct clinical impact, directly, and it becomes much easier to do, and also then can have a big impact as well. So probably the way I see it, that's a lot of the early stuff could be just operational efficiency and that sort of space. She says, so we probably see AI diagnosing diseases just yet. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's always going to be like human oversight, I think, or it's going to be very difficult to fully automate these kind of things and have an AI making decisions. Yeah, I can't see it happening fully. So, whereas the operational stuff, less so. Like I think it's more able to do that. Am I still practicing medicine, or am I full time? So yeah, this is something I'm trying to balance at the moment. Right now, I'm not doing any clinical medicine. I've not picked up shifts for like several months. I'm working pretty much like full time on the ML side of things, and yeah, I'm trying to maintain the clinical. I'm trying to maintain the insight. I don't feel ready to not be a doctor yet, but it's also really tricky, maintaining the skills in both. Like I think right now, if I was going to pick up a shift or start like a rotation, then I would want to do some like reviewing of clinical content just to make sure that I'm hot, which then obviously makes it harder to kind of just just go straight into it. And likewise with the ML, I think like right now I'm pretty hot on that because I've been spending a lot of time on that recently. But if I took too long away with the rate that the field is moving, then it's going to become tricky. So right now, no, my overall plan is to sort of switch between them. So sometimes practice clinical medicine, sometimes be doing more ML stuff, then kind of combine the two. And I think it will just take me a longer time to get to like a senior medical position or be a senior like ML engineer or kind of machine learning researcher. But that's kind of what I'm trying to do at the moment, basically. Yeah, it's work in progress. Deep Medicine is a great book. Yeah, it is a great book. I'm a big fan. I did some research with Eric Topol a couple of years back. And I think he did a great job in Deep Medicine of communicating a lot of ways that AI can be applied in different areas of healthcare. I'm actually currently rereading. He's got a chapter on personalized nutrition, and because my current project is personalized nutrition, like it's a great book just to like hop in and start reading about kind of some of the cutting edge, or at least stuff when it was published. Is there a minimum clinical hours you have to maintain? So there's not a specific cutoff of minimum clinical hours. The way it works in the NHS in the UK is that you basically have to apply for revalidation every couple of years. I think it's like every 2 years or so. And then when you have that revalidation, they'll then kind of assess what you've been doing in that 2 years from a medical point of view and try and see like, have you done stuff to maintain your skills? So you kind of have to be careful if you don't practice for 2 years, it's going to come to revalidation. They're going to be like, well, we haven't done any medicine, so there's no evidence that you've maintained your skills. And then what you can do is you can kind of give up your license, which means that you can't practice medicine at that time. And then you'd have to kind of pick up that license at a later point. And there's not like a kind of hard and fast rule about how long you can do that for. But I think, yeah, if you're not going to practice for like more than a year, then that's what people usually do. They give up the license and then would then kind of reapply, get the license back and start working again. Any tips for transitioning from medicine to computer science? Yeah, my broad advice would be just online courses and projects at a high level. Those are the best things. Like just start an online course in potentially a subfield of CS that you're interested in. So if you're interested in machine learning, just do like machine learning by Andrew Ng from Stanford or some other similar course. If there's a particular application area, then check that out. And then if you're not familiar with coding, just learn to code, like do some online coding courses. I think Python is like a very safe shout these days. So I would just do some courses in Python, get some practice. And then for projects, just have a think of anything in your day-to-day life that you think it would be useful to write code for and automate, and then try and do it, try and build it in code. And there'll be a lot of Googling, trying to figure out, how do you actually do it? But I think that's a good way to go about it, to build up those skills. I think one thing to bear in mind is it just takes like a really long time. I was kind of a bit impatient with it. I've probably been doing, like, I would say I first started doing it seriously in, I want to say 2017 is when I was like, okay, now I want to learn to code. I want to learn data science. And I'm still not fully there yet. Like I'm still very much learning. I mean, I feel confident. Like after a couple of years, you kind of start to know what you know and know what you don't know, and you can do things, but it definitely takes a long time. But you kind of have to keep chipping away at it. Yeah. So I've written a couple of blog posts about this that you might find helpful. Yeah, if you go on chrislovejoy.me, which is my website, then there are articles there about like projects and some recommended courses and stuff to start with. But yeah, and particularly if you're working as a doctor, I think it's hard. You don't have a huge amount of time. Like, well, I mean, you have time, but you're often pretty knackered after shifts, and you do have to remotivate yourself. So I definitely pushed myself like quite hard for a couple of years. What's the next big thing in medicine that will change it all? Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it would depend on probably the next changes in AI. I mean, I personally, maybe I'm a bit biased, but I think a lot of the changes are going to come through AI. So things that could facilitate that and like accelerate that would be changes in data structure, and like the ways in which we structure the kind of data that we collect and make that more readily available and integrate data from different hospitals. I think that's like a big part of being able to build useful AI for healthcare. And then in terms of other things, I mean, blockchain is interesting. I'm just aware that the desk is wobbling a lot, so let me just try and sort that out a little bit. Yeah, in terms of other things, and people talk a lot about blockchain. I think it has some interesting applications, and maybe we applied in healthcare. I think, yeah, it's good. For me, it's going to come from the AI field, and it will be a case of what's the next like big leap in AI. So we saw kind of the progression of neural networks to like convolutional neural networks and recurrent neural networks, which then enabled us to do all this cool imaging analysis. And then that sort of like leveled up what we can do, and that opened up a whole area of things that can be applied in healthcare, like all these kind of pattern recognition specialties, ophthalmology, radiology, etc. So that's super cool. And then, yeah, so it's kind of like, what's the next leap in AI? I mean, we're seeing a lot of exciting NLP stuff. We're seeing like really cool language models coming out of the last few years and progress in that. So we'll see. Maybe there'll be a lot of NLP. We will see a lot of NLP things, but maybe there's something kind of on the horizon that we don't fully comprehend yet in terms of the next level of AI. Algorithms, of course, that looks at labs such as blood sugar and warn you. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So Anthony here says, so like potential things that could be useful in future. So algorithms that look at labs such as blood sugar and warn you. Yeah, I think this kind of thing could definitely be useful. You could envisage an AI model being trained now on the data that we have that can predict various types of clinical deterioration. There's like research going on in that space, and that could be useful for sure for then, yeah, trying to predict things. And you could kind of imagine this optimized electronic healthcare record system where the patient is having all their bloods taken, they're getting entered, their vital signs and observations are all getting entered, and maybe even the clinical notes are also being analyzed. And then that just gives you these like percentage predictions of different types of deterioration or different conditions you should be thinking about. And sort of you have this whole that works alongside the existing records to help the doctor make decisions or help them be aware and consider things. And I think one of the tricky things, that's definitely a very technical problem to solve, both in terms of getting the AI to work well, but then also in terms of how do you make it so the notifications, like you're not getting overburdened with all this like stats and information, and you're not getting notified about things that aren't appropriate, and how you can balance that. So like Google Health did this predicting AKI system, like AKI is acute kidney injury, and Google Health basically have done some like pretty cool projects where they're trying to predict that developing. But it's really tricky to implement and actually use that and use it to pick up AKI without potentially introducing other risks and other potential downsides. So I think if someone can do it and someone can kind of implement it well, I think it could be a game changer. But it's just we have to be really careful basically about how we do it, because it could feasibly make things worse if you're having all these like unhelpful notifications. Shin says, being a doctor is part of your identity. Does this plague your mind when thinking about switching to ML? Yeah, great question. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't want it to affect my decision making kind of in an arbitrary sense, like, oh, I see my identity as a doctor, so therefore I shouldn't behave in this or that way. But I think it's probably more that I enjoy clinical medicine. I enjoy working as a doctor, and I would be sad if I could never do that again. And feel like it's not going to necessarily be the case that someone's going to say you cannot do this. But if I spend too long doing other things and working in ML, then it's entirely feasible that I would get to the point where I'm like, I don't know if I could work, like if I'm not confident, or if I've kind of like forgotten too much, or if then like the GMC like the regulatory council in the UK say, oh, you know, you can't be doing this anymore. Like if I've taken too long. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the identity thing, to some extent, I mean, I don't want it to like kind of unduly bias my decisions. But yeah, I think it's always a factor. It's hard to like untangle that thing entirely. Do you know Ali Abdal? What's your opinion on him? I mean, yeah, Ali. I would consider Ali a friend. He's cool. I don't actively follow his like YouTube stuff, so I don't know like what he's up to. I don't have like particularly strong opinions on him. I mean, I guess Ali as an individual is not identical to Ali as a kind of public figure content creator. So I can probably comment more on the former, and he's cool. He's a friend. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much else to say. Do you think that your freelance jobs help you find industry problems that can be solved with ML and eventually lead to a... Sorry, I'm reading that really fast. Do you think that freelance jobs help you find industry problems that could be solved with ML and eventually could lead to a product that companies are willing to pay for? Let's answer that in parts. So, do helps find industry problems? Yes, because everything that the freelance stuff is people working on industry problems, kind of requesting that from me. And I guess at least they think it's an industry problem. They might be trying to build a solution for a problem that doesn't exist or isn't like a big problem, in which case, fair enough. But it is useful to help identify things that can be solved. Yeah, for me, it's quite nice. It helps me like kind of keep my pulse on, keep my finger on the pulse of what sort of things people are working on and what's good, and eventually lead to a product. Yes, I think so. But then the thing is, a lot of the freelance is typically like a company is trying to work on something and they want you to build a subpart of that. So it makes it difficult for me to then go away and build a company of that product. Like I wouldn't really be able to build a company on the product that I was working on, if that makes sense. There is, I do think, potential for a kind of consulting type company in that space. And that's something that's like on my radar as maybe something I'll work on in the future, which is a company of people doing things like what I'm doing, who have the kind of clinical and medical insights to then come and work on projects related to ML and do it on like a freelance basis. Because I do think there is a lot of, there's a kind of a bit of a lack of people with strong healthcare backgrounds who also have strong technical skills. And there's a lot of researchers or people in medicine or academics who want people with a clinical insight to do the ML stuff. So there's kind of like, there's loads of people, ML, like ML engineers, data scientists, there's loads of those. There's also loads of researchers and loads of doctors who might want to use ML stuff. But then at the moment, it's a bit hard for them to collaborate. Like definitely there are people who can cross that bridge, but I think maybe there would be value of having some sort of company that just makes that easier, essentially, as some sort of like freelance thing. So yeah, this is something I will work on in the future. Right now, I'm just doing freelance stuff. I'm not trying to like scale up or recruit other people as part of a team, but maybe it would be cool to do at some point in the future. Where are we? When you were in med school, have you someday felt under-challenged or too one-dimensional challenged? Yeah, I think, I'm actually just gonna turn the light on because I think I'm like getting a bit dark. Also, I don't think this video quality is phenomenal. I'm just on my webcam. So probably future live streams, I have a camera, like I have this, but I just haven't set it up. So probably, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'll set up a camera next time. Camera and a nice microphone. Anyway, that's a side point. So when I was in med school, did I ever feel under-challenged? So I would say that, yeah, to some extent, yes. To some extent, not so much under-challenged, but like in one dimension. I think medicine is very focused on certain types of learning and certain types of skills, which is still quite a broad set of skills, but I definitely felt there were parts that I wanted to have that weren't necessarily there. And for me particularly, it was things like the mathematical side of things and thinking about that, and also just deeper problem solving. So what I like I like a lot about my job and the work I'm doing right now is I will have a problem and I'll just work on it for like 2 months, 3 months. And every day I'll be coming back to that and thinking like, how could I do this next step? What's something I could incorporate later on? And you never really have that in medicine. It's always a lot more short term in a way, or it's like you're thinking, how can you solve the problem right now? Because you have a patient in front of you and you're figuring out what you can do or like what you should do in that situation. And then that patient's done, and the next day will be different. Or maybe there's a patient on your ward for a couple of weeks, but then they're elsewhere. So yeah, that's something I was actually thinking about this recently. Like I just really appreciate that I can think deeply on something for like many weeks. And the kind of projects I'm working on right now enable that. That's not to say medical school wasn't challenging. Like it's pretty hard. You have to learn a lot of stuff. You have to go to the wards and, deal with all the kind of complex intricacies of medical care. So yeah. If so, could you please give an example of such an idea? Okay, I think I've covered that one. Another question: are you still a doctor? Well, yeah, good question. I mean, am I still a doctor? I'm not actively working clinically right now. I am a registered doctor with a license to practice, so I could pick up a shift tomorrow, hypothetically. I was saying earlier, I wouldn't necessarily do that off the bat because I don't feel fully confident or comfortable to jump straight into it because I've taken a bit of time out. But yes, technically I'm a doctor and still kind of am a doctor. I'm on Instagram. Yes, Chris.lj, I'm pretty sure. We are in the field of medicine. Which branch of CS is best for us as a future career or as a tool to help us in medicine or life in general? Yeah, good question. I would be biased and just say AI and ML. I think it's kind of the future. But other areas of CS, even just being able to make a website is quite useful. Or yeah, I don't know. I would be about to say AI ML, but you could learn more general things like websites like front-end development, databases, and you could build stuff that's useful for healthcare out of that. But AI is more sexy, and I would say AI. Would you recommend UCL MSc data science for someone who doesn't have a deep background in CS? Yes, I think on the whole, I had a really good experience at UCL. They have some really cool lecturers, lots of big names in the field of data science. And I think in general, a master's can be a good stepping stone for somebody who doesn't have a strong technical background. So I think data science could be a good route to that. There's various other ones at UCL you can consider if you're thinking specifically UCL. So computer science. There's computer science MSc, there's data science, machine learning. It depends a little bit how technical you want to go. It depends how broad you want to go. So computer science MSc is going to be a bit more broad, I would say, and a bit more focused across the kind of spectrum of computer science, whereas data science will be more data science. I don't know if I'm really saying anything too profound here, but I would say, on the whole, I think it's a good shout. A master's in general is usually a good use of time. If you have something else that you could do that you could learn maybe on the job, then that can sometimes be better because you can learn a lot more. Well, not necessarily more, but you can learn by doing. If there's a job that you can get where you can then work on that, and also you get paid as well, which is a big difference because I paid $15,000 for my master's degree, but it didn't cost me $15,000 because it also cost me the salary I would have been getting paid. So it's it ends up being a fairly big kind of financial investment and time investment, obviously. But yes, if you don't have a strong background in CS and you want to kind of get that, then I think data science MSc definitely could be a good way to do it. And I think you would be able to do it. It's not the case that it's going to be too technical for you, I don't think. And then what's your role at Zoe? So right now I'm basically working as a machine learning intern. So it's kind of like a machine learning engineer role, but for 3 months. And I'm specifically working on trying to model glucose metabolism and basically build a machine learning model that you can give it information about an individual and what they're eating and what they're doing. And it can predict how their glucose is and how it's changing and stuff. And I have to be careful. I don't think I can like say too much detail about it because it's kind of like a proprietary company thing. But yeah, in a broad sense, it's about trying to model the glucose using machine learning. And there's various different ways that you could then potentially use that. How did you get into data science in the first place, and how did you get into your first job as a data scientist? So the way I got into data science was initially just kind of self-taught, did online courses, did machine learning by Andrew Ng, and did like some Python courses, started working on projects. I did it alongside working as a doctor, so I was just trying to find things in medicine I could apply it to, and I did like various kind of small side projects trying to apply what I was learning into medicine, and I did write a blog about that where I kind of listed out every project I did. So if you Google like Chris Lovejoy, every project I did for data science or something like that, then you would see like more specifically the stuff I did do. But yeah, basically just kind of built my skills on that, and then how to get my first job as a data scientist. So yeah, I mean, by that point, so I'd completed part of my master's degree when I was applying, and I had done like quite a lot of projects and courses and had worked at a startup in the space. So that all, I think, helped me to then get that job. Yeah, and then I just kind of like applied. And I actually have also made some videos about the process I use to apply and like prepare for interviews. So if you're interested in that, then like check out those videos as well. But yeah, that was broadly it. I kind of worked on getting the skills and getting some projects for about 2 years, I would say, before I then started applying. And the advice I got was try and get like 3 solid projects that you can talk about, like kind of substantial things, because that will usually be enough to then talk about in the interview and get general advice and yeah, like have enough that you can talk about and say like what you learned from those projects and try and get a job. Yeah. Aren't doctors in the UK madly underpaid? I mean, I guess that's a subjective thing. I would say, I wouldn't say it's not true. I do think definitely compared to other countries, and if you consider the amount of training that you do and the amount of debt that you will have at the end of university, yeah, it's not great. But then also, if you work as a doctor in the UK, you're probably in like the top 10% or top 20% of earners in the UK. So it's not like you're, oh, what did I do? Yeah, it's not like